Hey, everybody, and welcome to another Into the Terminal. As always, I'm joined by my co host, Nate Lager. Welcome, Nate. And today we're going to be talking about getting RHEL.
Getting real.
So,
I
uh,
mean,
kick us off and help us get some RHEL.
yeah, I think so. So, the number one thing the number one barrier I see from people who want to learn RHEL are like, how do I get it? How do I get my hands on RHEL without having to go buy RHEL? I mean, it's like it's not a ton of money, but it's enough money that it could be a barrier for a lot of people, especially people that are, just getting into their careers, that sort of thing. So we have the developers program, and I thought that'd be a perfect start, right? So how do you get Rail starts with how do I get a subscription? So here we are with how to get a developer for individuals subscription. So this is actually easier than it sounds, right? You'd think, oh, I got to go get a subscription. There's going to be a bunch of paperwork, yada yada yada. I've got to sign over a child or something. No, you head to developers.redhat.com, which completely coincidentally is also on my t-shirt today. Did not plan that. This was the next one in the drawer. It's just how it happened. So you go to developers.redhat.com, and this is actually more than just a place to go sign up for the developers for individual subscription. This is a community of development on RHEL, right? So if you want to learn about development on RHEL, this is also a great place for that. But that's not what I'm focused on at the moment. If you scroll to the bottom or near the bottom, there's this developer membership benefits and join at no cost. You click on that, it'll take you to the registration page. Now, you could go directly to the registration page, it's just like /register, and Scott's going to put a link for that in the chat or in a pop up or something here. And then basically, you need to fill in this form. It's going to ask you for things like your email address and whatnot as you register your name. So yes, this is contact info that you're registering with Red Hat, but that's not a bad thing, right? This is kind of the start of your, I don't know, your life with Red Hat. Once you've done that, and I've already done it, so I'm not going to go through the form again because I don't want to burn a bunch of email addresses by filling in this form over and over again. You'll get access to a developer for individual subscription, which gives you 16 RHEL subs and everything that comes with a RHEL sub except support. They're self-support subscriptions, right? So you can't like contact Red Hat for to get the full support experience as though you were a full paying customer. And Scott's about to correct me. What's up, Scott?
So, wait, I get 16 subscriptions. Can I use those on hardware, virtual machines, cloud? How do I use them?
Anywhere you run RHEL, you can
And
use
then
them
you said it comes
virtual,
with stuff.
physical.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Nate.
I was going to say you can use them virtual, physical, cloud, whatever, right? Anywhere you can like attach a RHEL system, you can attach one of these subs to it.
And you said it comes with things in a RHEL subscription. What do you
Includes
like? What's
things
that?
includes things like insights. It does not. At least the last time I did this, it did not include satellite. That's still true, correct? There's no
That's
satellite,
correct. It does not include
right?
satellite.
But it does have insights, right? So obviously, if you're looking for satellite, you're probably at a higher tier of rail usage, and you're going to have to get a pay subscription for that. But included with the developer for individual sub is all of insights, right? All the things that you can get with RHEL with insights is included, and all the tools that come with RHEL. So things like, oh, I'd like to stand up an identity management domain included with the developer for individual sub. I've done that myself in my home lab. That's how I run my IDM. So lots of features, not just plain old rail and nothing that comes with it.
So
All
it
right.
also comes with a bunch of add-ons. So you also get HA add-on. You get extended update support, which is an additional 2 years on selected minor releases of critical and important security errata. So there's more there than just the RHEL installation media.
Right. Right. All right. So once I've signed up for this, I was going to walk you through like what the subscriptions look like on the subscription side. Right now, I honestly, once you've signed up, if you go and install RHEL, you can then do either an RHC Connect or a subscription manager register. Use the credentials that you gave it when you filled in this form. I think there may be an activation you have to do that you receive in an email. I forget how that workflow goes. But once you're activated and your account's fully ready to go, You can register systems. You don't have to do anything really else that I'm about to show you. But I wanted to show you what the subscriptions look like on the management side. So first, let's go over to the hybrid cloud console. And of course, it's logged me out. So give me a second here. That's not what I wanted to do. You're gonna get my email address. Terrible. You're not gonna get my password though, because that's blanked out very happily. All right. So at the hybrid cloud console, we're gonna go into our inventory, and we're going to go to the subscription inventory. And here it's going to show you what subscriptions I've got. Now, if you're familiar with the old customer portal, access.redhat.com, you can also do it that way. But this is sort of like the newer, updated way to get this done. These things are slowly being merged into, accessible through the hybrid cloud console. This is a very similar look to what you would have seen there. This is the subscriptions that I have. You can see I've got access to betas, and I've got this Red Hat developer subscription for individuals. If I click on that, it's going to tell me that I've got 16 of them. Yeah, not on this page. I thought it was on this page. Maybe it's just blocked. Yeah, it's blocked off. I think because the screen is zoomed in the way it is. But I do have 16. You can also look at subscriptions RHEL. It'll give you this really cool graph of all of your subscriptions, right? And this is the same for paying customers as well as developer for individual customers. This is basically how, if you're a large organization and you need to track your subscriptions, this is what has been referred to as Subscription Watch, is now like Insight Subscription Management or something. I forget the official name for it now. But if you can go back, if you look back like the past year, you can see my subscription usage has really fluctuated as I've spun up and turned down labs and things like that, right? So this is cool stuff. I think this is really, back in the old days of managing subscriptions, we didn't have these tools, and it was like, okay, go ask Satellite, where are my subscriptions? Okay, get out the spreadsheet. So it's really great that this stuff exists now. So good stuff. And I think that's primarily what I want. Oh, I wanted to show you my actual inventory of RHEL systems here. So if I go to inventory systems, these are systems that I've actually got registered right now to the developer subscription. And this DevBox 0, we're going to come back to later in my next demo, which is all subscribed using the developer for individual subscription. So you'll see, how indistinguishable from a full paid for RHEL subscription it really is. And yeah, anything else you wanted to see before we switch, Scott? Or are we good to go there?
I think we're good. So stay with us after the break or after the transition. We're going to be going further into like how do I find and download the materials I need to install RHEL locally. And then Nate is going to take us through installing RHEL via building images with the image builder tool.
Yep.
And we'll even get a little terminal in there at the end because Nate felt sad that we weren't doing terminal today.
There's not nearly enough terminal today.
Don't forget to mash that like and subscribe button to let us know that you want us to keep making content, and then also be notified when we're doing events like this. Or if you missed it before we go to transition, Eric just did a What's New in 9.3 and 8.9 release a couple days ago. So you should be able to find that in the product update video on the RHEL YouTube.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll see you after the transition, everybody.
Click the button, Scott.
So you may have noticed that we don't have Eric with us today, which is that's me clicking all the buttons and doing terrible at it. So welcome back.
Almost indiscernible from when we had Eric, but don't tell him that.
All right, so we're talking about subscriptions and getting access to RHEL. And the traditional way of getting access to RHEL is now that you have a subscription, you would go to the Red Hat customer portal and download the install media that you need. So I have this window right here. It's currently logged out, so let me go ahead and log it in. Let's try this again. There we go. And from here, you can go to products and services, infrastructure management, Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and we can download it. I think there may be a shortcut up top that says downloads, but it takes you to a slightly different view of what's available for download. So what we're looking at is all the things that we can download for Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and you can see that we're shown all of the versions of RHEL that are actively supported. So RHEL 9 is in full support phase. RHEL 8 also in full support phase, but not for too much longer. It'll transition to maintenance phase shortly. And then down a little bit lower, we have RHEL 7, which is currently in maintenance phase, at least until June 30th of next year. So the difference between the ISOs that are being offered, the boot ISO, you can see it's titled Network Install Images. It's basically a very, very small bootable CD. And it allows you to boot into the installer, but it doesn't have any of the packages or things the installer would need to actually install your system. So we use those for things like a small piece of media that will allow us to boot the machine into a kernel and connect to a network to then find the packages and other installer information we need from another source. So you don't want that one. Most people will end up starting with the offline install images, the DVDs. And these are over 8 gigs apiece, so you actually can't burn them to a DVD media, but you can put them on a USB stick. And this will be all the packages, all the installer bits, everything that you need to boot the machine off of this image and then go through the installation process. And we actually did an installer episode a while ago, which I copied the URL for and have promptly forgotten. But maybe like 3 months ago, we did a step by step install of Red Hat Enterprise Linux. So if you're interested in doing that, you could take a look there. It was RHEL 9. And then the bottom part of this page is um, the virtualization images. So these are QCOW2 formatted images that you can download and import into your existing KVM based hypervisor, or some cloud providers will accept QCOW2 imports, or you can use tools to convert them from a QCOW2 to something else that your virtualization platform accepts. So these are the ones that we pre-build, but of course you're free to make your own as well. But so that's kind of how we find the downloads and what are we interested in downloading. I think most of us will be interested in downloading the DVD. And Nate, is that what you're going to use today?
The DVD? No, I'm gonna use Image Builder, man. There's all kinds of ways to get to output from Image Builder. So So yeah, Scott's covered how to get ISO images. I'm going to show you how to take. So there's two ways to run this tool. I want to talk about both, but I'm going to show one. So Image Builder is a tool that will do what it sounds like, not images like cats, but images like RHEL images that you can then deploy in pretty much whatever way you want to deploy RHEL. Um, Image Builder will take a predefined set of tasks, bake those into a RHEL image, and then that RHEL image will come out the other end in like I feel like it's a dozen or more different formats depending on how you run the tool, right? So the one I'm going to show you is the RHEL image builder. That's the self-hosted image builder that you can run on your own infrastructure or your cloud infrastructure. Wherever you run RHEL, you can run this thing. Or there's also the Insights image builder, which is hosted on the hybrid cloud console. If you go to Insights and you can go to image builder, um, they're not quite identical in the feature set, but there is work being done to make that happen. So just keep that in mind. The really nice thing about Insights Image Builder is you don't need to host any of the infrastructure, and it gives you options to build whatever supported version of RHEL is currently offered from Red Hat, or you can build CentOS Stream for like development and stuff like that. So just keep that in mind. That is a tool that exists. It's not the one I'm showing you today. The RHEL Image Builder you can actually access through the RHEL web console. And if you want to bring up my screen share, we can get started with that. So this is DevBox Zero, just a box that I built using my developer for individual subscription. Um, it's basically I installed it a couple hours ago using an image builder built image from my hypervisor that I use in my home lab, right? So it's like image builder inception here. This is the web console, the RHEL web console. If you haven't seen this before, this is not your average. Like I remember the days when web administration on a Linux box was a big no-no. This is not that tool. This thing is great. It's a really handy web interface to manage RHEL boxes, and I have not seen any reason to not recommend it to people. Otherwise, I wouldn't be. Anyway, so Image Builder, there's a plugin for the web console that lets you build image builder templates and even spit out images at the other end. So I've got a blueprint already defined for RHEL 9. We're just going to edit that blueprint to show you kind of how this stuff works. There's a nice little wizard that it walks you through. You can see I didn't define a whole lot in here just yet, but I did build an image based on this earlier, which I'll show you in a little bit. But once you've defined the blueprint, you can come in here and you can click on some of these to change the features that are defined, or you can click this edit blueprint button, which will bring you back to the wizard. And I kind of wanted to show you the wizard. So that's what we're going to do from there. So this is just like some metadata about your image. We're going to hit next. You can define what packages you want to install. I didn't pick anything extra, but we could add, like, I don't know, everybody's favorite text editor. Before this was spinning on me and it wasn't. There we go. This is much better. Must have had to update a cache or something that I wasn't willing to wait for. Let's add Vim minimal because we like Vim. Kernel. Normally there's a menu on the side here, but because I have the screen blown up, you can't see it. So it's going to be hard to skip ahead. So I'm just going to have to go through these one at a time. You can actually add kernel arguments if you so see fit. File system. This is the one that I think is actually kind of powerful, especially if you're building for a cloud deployment. If you deploy to the cloud, if you use like the stock images that come from your cloud provider, they usually have a very basic file system layout. And a lot of times for compliance reasons, that's hard to meet your standards, right? Because, for example, temp and var aren't on their own partitions, and you can fix that by building your own image and defining your own custom partition table here. So this is set to use automatic. If I did manually, you can see it just opens up this table where I can add additional partitions and tell it what size and what mount point I want them on, right? So you can imagine you can get completely well customized here, right? So if your compliance standards say temp has to be separate because it needs to be no exec, for example, you can set it separately and then you can come back in and set it to no exec later. I don't think it lets you set it no exec here, although that could be what this extra column here is for. I'm not really certain. There's no heading on this column. Scott, do you know what this column's for? Maybe that's for a custom mount point. I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to switch that back to automatic just because I don't want to mess up my build.
I wonder if us changing the size too much monkeyed with how it's displaying stuff.
It could be. It could be. All right. And then we're going to go next. Services, you can tell it to enable or disable certain services because there's compliance reasons. You may want certain services that come out of the box turned off, right? And there's obviously, if you're building this for a certain purpose, say we install the Apache in the packages and we want it turned on out of the box, we can set it as an enabled service here. Firewall, you can define ports or services that you want turned on by default. This is another really handy one. You can build in a user. I built in myself a user called Nate. You can add an SSH key for it. You can make them a server administrator. Obviously, it's generally a bad idea to bake in users, but there are lots of reasons you would want to bake in a user. One, maybe you want a default like break glass administrative user in case your centralized authentication is down. Maybe you want to build in an automation user. Maybe this is your Ansible user, right? So these are good reasons to have this. Or maybe your deployment just isn't so sophisticated that you have centralized auth and you do want to bake in users, right? So that's why you'd want to do this. You can add additional groups. We've talked about group management. What was that, 2 episodes ago? Or was it last episode? We talked about user management, why you might want groups. So that's important. I think these are for shared SSH keys. If you want to specify SSH keys and then add them to users directly, which seems a whole lot like adding an SSH key in the users panel. So there's another way to get that done. Time zone is sometimes important. Keyboard locale. I don't want to go too in depth on each and every panel here. If this is a specific use case image and you want to bake in a host name, you can do that here. You can tell it what physical device it should be installing to. I usually just leave the default, but if you have specialized hardware, that might be important to you. FIDO device onboarding, right, for compliance reasons or for authentication reasons. This is a cool one, OpenSCAP. I actually did a demo on this not too long ago, where not for Red Hat, for a local meetup I do, but I wanted to show this off because I think it's an actually really a nice feature. You can build an OpenSCAP profile into the initial image build, right? So you pick a data stream based on if you had the SCAP security guide installed on the host that you're doing the image build on. You pick the data stream, you tell it what profile you want it to use for something like, I don't know, CIS or some other profile that already exists in OpenSCAP. And what it'll do is any remediation that it can reasonably perform during the image build, it will do, and it'll come out of the box that much more compliant than if you had just built a standard RHEL box and then have to come back in and change compliance. This is, I think, a really nice feature for anyone who works in a space where you need your systems to be more compliant or compliant to a certain standard because of whatever governing body has their eye on you, right? So good stuff. And like I said, I did a demo on this. This does work. It isn't just fluff, right? Like I tried it out. The demo that I did, I had installed and enabled Apache's HTTPD in the previous steps, and then I applied CIS to it at that step. One of the steps of CIS is to disable and remove HTTPD. So I spent an hour trying to figure out why my HTTPD install didn't work, and it turned out it was because OpenSCAP did what I told it to, and it took it back out. So it does work. This is for first boot ignitions. If you're not familiar with ignitions, I don't want to go too in depth on this, but it's another way of adding first boot automation into your system. And then it says, please review all your details, but we can't because the menu's not there. Maybe it lets me, it lets me pick it in the list here. So you could go back and you could check. See, I could have skipped all these. You can go back and say, oh, wait, I forgot to do a firewall rule. You can go back to there and change it, right? We're going to go back to, that won't let me go to the bottom of the list. Tell you what, I'm going to have to talk to that Brian Smith guy. This does not like being in such a small window. There we go. All right, so we just finished the wizard. Like I said, we didn't really make a lot of changes there, so you probably don't notice much difference here than the first time we were here. But now what we can do is build an image. So we're going to click Create Image. We're going to tell it which blueprint to base it on, and you can have several blueprints defined on the same system. Maybe you have different types of builds. Maybe this one has a custom partition table. Maybe this one has a SCAP profile. Maybe this one is different, right? You can name them differently. And the output type, this is what I was talking about before. You can tell it how you want this to be created, or I should say what format you want to create it in, right? You can spit it out to an ISO, which is what Scott was talking about earlier. You can then take that ISO file. Sorry, this is the one I was talking about. That's an edge deployment ISO. This is a normal RHEL installer ISO. This is more like an automated install than a direct imaging, right? Where you can burn that to a USB stick, plug it in, and boot a piece of hardware off of it. I'm going to do a plain old QCOW2 file just because it's really convenient. I'm going to hit next. You can tell it if you want to make the disk larger. That was what that second box was there for. And click create. And then if I go over to images, you're going to see a new image in the build queue. Now you can see I have an existing ready image built right here and one that I messed up before. Sorry. Now, once the build is finished, you can download it right from here. But what I'm going to do is take you over to the console on the system that we're working with here. I have an SSH session open to it because that was easier to deal with for the live stream. So give me just a sec here. We're going to stop this and we're going to open a new one. All right. Sorry, Scott, I took your job. I even turned on my own share. All right. So this is a console in the same box that the web console was open on. We're going to do some composer CLI commands. So if we do composer CLI is the way you interact with Image Builder from the command line. There's a bunch of tools that are kind of put together to make the thing we call Image Builder. Composer is one of them. There's a thing called Welder. There's another image builder service that I forget the name of. I think that's the composer service. But anyway, we're going to do composer CLI, compose status. I think that's what I wanted. Yes. This will give me a list of all of the images that Image Builder has in queue or that have recently finished, right? And this is the same list that you saw in the web console earlier, except now it's text and easier to do things like copy and paste with. You can see here, this one's running. That'll take, I think when I built this one earlier, it was about 10 minutes to build. This is 100% dependent on the system that you're running on, how much processing power it has available to it. But we're going to do a composer CLI compose image. This tells it, hey, that UUID that I'm going to pass in right now, give me the image that correlates with that build. And what it's going to spit out at the other end is the QCal file that I told it to build. It's going to take a second, I think, because it's already got a build running. But come on, do your thing. Oh, it just wasn't giving me the. Now you can see we've got a 819 megabyte QCOW2 file, which I can then take this and throw it into like a virtualization environment or something and actually run an image off of it. It's also, they come out of the box ready to do Cloud Init. So if that's how you normally add in like some first boot stuff, you can do Cloud Init, or like you saw in the image builder UI, you can add in an ignition file. So we're going to clear the screen and I'm going to show you one more thing, which I think is actually really cool. That whole wizard, right? That's great for maybe the first time that you're running through this process. After that, it's going to be tiring, right? You're not going to want to do that every time you need to rebuild. So there's two things to think about there. One, that blueprint doesn't expire when RHEL 9.4 comes out. You can just run the build again and it'll build the latest and greatest RHEL. It'll build 9.4 or 9.5 or 6 or whatever it is that we're releasing at the time. Or whatever is current at the time, I should say. Whatever the system you're building on knows about, it'll build to that latest spec. However, if for some reason you want to change the settings in that, having to go back into the UI might be a little cumbersome. So there is a dang it, I hit Control V instead of Apple V. Sorry. All right, so blueprints, as you saw in the web console, is what we call these things, right? And it's that's a TOML blueprint file, a TOML specification, which will let you. It's basically a text file that you could then do something like, I don't know, commit into Git for your version history or whatever. But you can also work with those via the command line. So you can see we've got one called RHEL 9. If we do blueprints show RHEL 9, it'll show you the actual output of these TOML files. Now you can see this is actually pretty easy to read through if you know what you're looking for. Look, we said, let's add packages, Vim minimal. There it is. So what do you think you do if you want more packages? You take this text, you add more packages to it, and then you can then commit that back to the files that you have, or I should say the definitions that you have within Image Builder. You don't have to go back through the wizard. The wizard is just another way to get that done. So right, there's a command you can run that'll actually export this to a file, and then you can make changes to it, and then you can commit it back in. And that I think is great for folks who want to do this in a more automated or repeatable fashion than having to go through that web UI. And that is, in a nutshell, Image Builder. Any comments, Scott? Turn your camera. There you
I'm working on it. I'm not as good as producer Eric. Cut me some slack. Um, no, I actually like the CLI for a variety of reasons. Like I feel like if you were building a CI/CD pipeline, you could actually integrate this into your automated build process. You had mentioned that there was an image builder for Insights as well. So one of the downsides to running your own local image builder is that you have to use a RHEL subscription for the box that's doing your image building. But
Yeah.
if you use the Insights based image builder, we provide that box. So you're able to still consume all 16 of your RHEL entitlements for other things besides a box that does image building.
And you can even tie that to, say, a cloud provider if you want to deploy directly to the cloud, right? Say you're, I don't know, an AWS user. You can tie your cloud account into your Insights account, and then when you build stuff via Insights, it'll or via Image Builder, it'll push it straight over there, and it'll be an image that's available to build right from when you deploy a new instance. I think that's a really nice integration. I forget if the RHEL Image Builder has that feature or not. It might.
I believe it
Y-
does. The push to
At the
cloud.
very least, you can spit out an AMI that you can then upload.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it has the push to cloud option where you can
Yeah.
put in S3 bucket and some other stuff to get it in your cloud provider.
Right, right. But from a repeatability standpoint, I don't know that you can push a TOML file into Insights Image Builder. What you can do is send an API call. And when you build an image using image builders in Insights Image Builder, there's actually a button right at the end that you can click, and it'll give you the JSON request that it's sent to Image Builder, which you can then, use for repeatable builds later.
So we did have a question that's a little bit off topic in our
Okay.
where
What
is
could go
it?
wrong?
What could go wrong? So Mr. B asked, do any of you guys use RHEL at home or work with GNOME? I mean, I see a lot of sysadmins or company reps these days promoting Linux, but using Mac or Windows on their machines, and I get a sour taste.
A sour taste. So, for all my personal machines, I do use Linux with GNOME. However, it's not RHEL, it's Fedora. I personally think that Fedora is kind of a more versatile general purpose Linux desktop for home use. I also do things like play games on that machine or do like, I don't know, just general, more less enterprisey, more general consumery things. And Fedora just feels better for that. You can do it with RHEL, right?
So I mean, you can. So I have a machine that I foisted upon my children that runs Fedora, and they're quite happy with it. Um, I have a box that runs RHEL that I do a lot of demos and like other stuff on it. But I also have a lot of virtual machines that I use for doing screen captures or what have you that runs on my Mac. Um, my daily driver is a Mac because I do a lot of video conferencing and I have to be able to get on Teams or Zoom or a variety of other things. And I need all those apps to just like work all the time. Um, but I use VMs and things on my Mac to help supplement my Linux needs.
Yeah.
And then there's other times where I've chosen RHEL for things. I actually ran a Myth TV setup for a while that was installed on RHEL because I wanted to make sure that it had a really long lifespan where I wasn't having to monkey with it every so often and upgrade it and potentially break it, which would then break my TV and make my family very unhappy. So, so depending on what it is, I have chosen RHEL for personal projects as well.
It's funny how when you're the home sysadmin, you make a lot of choices that you might have done as an enterprise sysadmin just because you don't want the family to come knocking on the door. Why is the TV down?
Exactly. Exactly. Um,
But yeah, I use RHEL in my home lab. I mean, you just saw it, right? The hypervisor that I use, that's all RHEL. Using my D4I subscription. D4I is a shorthand for developer for individuals, by the way. Um, And but you're right. It's a use case by use case decision. Sometimes I use Send.Stream, sometimes I use RHEL, sometimes I use Fedora. All depends what I want to do with it and why I'm building it.
all right, so I think that brings us to the end, Nate.
I
Any
think it
part
does.
wisdom?
Any parting wisdom? Go get RHEL and get your hands on it and play with it and see what you like and don't like about it and file bugs if you find problems.
Plus one that developer for individuals, even if you're not a developer, right? You're a student, you're a sysadmin, but you're interested in using RHEL, a great resource. You don't have to be a developer to have a developer for individual subscription.
Right. Yeah, the name is it may sound intimidating for folks who are like, I'm not a developer. Why would I do that? Well, it's focus on the for individuals. Are you an individual? It's for you. Maybe it should be called RHEL for individuals.
Well, but it's not just RHEL. There's actually other products in there too. There's
Uh,
Ansible, and I think there's now OpenShift in it. So yeah, like you get lots of stuff with your developer for individuals.
do we have a podcast on how to file bugs? Jay Scar asks. I don't think we do. Maybe
We
that's
do
another topic. How does a general user file a bug? We should do that.
good, but I don't know. It's be completely useless because why would we ever need to file bugs, Nate?
Oh, you're going to take that stance, are you? RHEL is perfect. There's never any issues.
No, I can't, in good faith, say that RHEL is perfect. Never any issues. Uh, but yeah, bugs are also not just how you report problems that may be in the software, but also how you request feature enhancements and
Yeah.
changes.
I mean, just this week, I was running through a new feature in RHEL, and I found errors in our documentation that were just simple typographic things. Right? That's a bug. I file bugs against our documentation the same way you can against software. If you're doing that, you find a command that doesn't work right, or it's worded funny, or the syntax is wrong. Instead of just living with it, report a bug. That's why you can do that.
And Nate, did you know that the feedback element in Insights actually goes to a queue that the developers for that tool you like triage daily?
Yeah, that's exactly the way it works for the documentation as well. It actually files a bug that's treated just like any other software bug.
So I know a lot of other places you get feedback and it like goes into the netherworld of
Like
content.
somebody's inbox, it goes to the bottom. No one ever touches it.
Exactly. Or it goes to an automated service account that no one ever opens the email for.
Yeah.
Um, but we actually do take those pretty seriously. And while I can't promise action on everyone, um, I know that a human will read and evaluate everyone. All right. So um, coming up next week, we're going to take the week off because it's a very lovely holiday in the United States where we will get together with family and friends and gorge ourselves on giant birds um, and eat pies, which is a uniquely American dish. Um, and
Really? Foreign countries don't have pie? Is that what you're saying?
that's what I'm saying. They have tarts and a variety of other things, but I have not found pie other places.
I mean, other places haven't thought, let's just make a bowl of dough and fill it with bad for us things and call it a dessert.
So they do that, but it's different.
They don't call it pie.
Well, they
Okay.
don't pie. The shell is usually a little bit different. Um, yeah, pie is a uniquely American thing, and then things like
Okay.
apple pie, a very American thing, or pumpkin pie.
That's pretty
Um,
nice.
so we will not be here next week because we will be busy proving to the world that pie is the best dessert.
Right.
And then the week after that, we will be back. And Nate, we're going to be doing pranking your coworkers in Linux.
Yeah. Should be a fun one.
What are we going to do there?
Well, we're gonna mess with our coworkers in Linux. Do things like, I don't know, set their bash shell to sbin no login or log out, or I don't know, creative uses of fortune. We'll see how it turns out. It's gonna be fun though.
Yeah, and somebody online was asking about it, or maybe it was in a chat room in Red Hat, and they were like, that could be really dangerous. So I will say we're going to limit ourselves to things that will not completely destroy your machine. That that's not really a prank. That's just a poor taste.
Hold on, I'm crossing that one off my list.
That's right. Hey Scott, run this command. Okay. Hey, it's taking a really long time. Oh, that's because your machine's gone.
Where'd my kernel go?
Um, Pranking your coworkers in Linux is going to be our last episode for the year because After that, Nate and I have in-person team meetings, and then it's off to the holidays. So after pranking your coworkers in Linux, we'll be back on Into the Terminal in the new year. However, Nate and producer Eric are going to be in Las Vegas at reInvent, and they're going to
That's
do a
true.
special edition RHEL Presents live from reInvent, and they're also going to be covering Convert to RHEL in that episode. You're going to talk about how to convert all
Yes.
your instances to RHEL.
Sure.
Why not?
No, but yeah, it's gonna be fun. We're gonna try to do a live stream right from the show floor. So wish us luck. What could go wrong?
Live show? What could possibly go wrong?
What could go wrong?
All right. Well, thanks everybody for staying with us today, and we'll see you in a couple weeks. And happy into the terminaling.
Yep. Everybody have a great one.